Shalom. Our special show today is about Israel, a land of great achievements and history, and the historic homeland of the Jewish people who were exiled and persecuted for over 2,000 years, and now since 1948 have returned to rebuild. Israel has turned barren land into fertile green fields and has made the desert bloom. Israel is also a world leader in high-tech research and industry, in medicine, culture, and so very much more. Israel has successfully also absorbed immigrants from all over the world and has also defended itself in several wars in which its Arab neighbors had hoped to wipe out and destroy Israel. Luckily, they were fortunately soundly defeated. Throughout all of this, the country has emerged as the one shining bright star of democracy in the Middle East. On our show today, we have Israel's Minister of National Infrastructure, Uzi Landau. Minister Landau earned his PhD at MIT, the Massachusetts Institute for Technology, and was appointed Minister of Internal Security by Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. Currently, as mentioned, he serves as Israel's Minister of National Infrastructure, and we will hear highlights of his speech at the Jewish National Fund National Conference in Atlanta right after this.
I have the pleasure to bring greetings from the Holy Land, from the Promised Land, from the land of milk and honey. Though a land without water and no oil, that's perhaps why they put me a minister responsible for what we don't have in the country. I'm coming here after 6 consecutive years of drought in our developing countries, ongoing building country, just to share with you the narrative of water in our place. Because you are just a part of this narrative, you are partners to what we do on water resources in Israel. Since we assumed office about 1.5 years ago, I met the leadership of the JNF Parsons Water Fund. I have the pleasure to meet Dr. Mort Mauer and Stan, I saw you before, Stan Chesley, and Lorraine Greenbaum. And I met with Russ Robinson, I also saw you before. And with Ron Lauder. And I had a lot of troubling just to try and see what we have in our water business. Let me say, much of that you will find fingerprints of the JNF. Just 1.5 months ago, I was visiting the deep Shamir drilling of water up in the Galilee. There are more than 200 water reservoirs, some to just collect rainwater, some to accumulate purified sewage water, all needed for agricultural purposes. And they add more than 10% of our water consumption. We have what you build in the Ramon Air Force Base, that is the wetland project. People will go to Sderot, to Yerucham, to Arad, to Beersheba, and they will see what JNF is doing over there. What we have been doing primarily over the past 5 to 6 or 7 years is desalination of water on large scale. And we will continue that today. We desalinate 300 million cubic meters a year through 3 major desalination plants on sea. There are many more, but smaller ones to deal with the brackish water, which are inland mostly. But just last May, we've inaugurated the largest of its kind desalination plant off the coast of Hadera that desalinates 127 million cubic meters. That's the greatest of its kind in the world. In 3 to 4 years from now, we shall reach the level of about 600 million cubic meters a year. That will be about half of what we get as fresh water today from nature. And by the end of this decade, it will be 700 million cubic meters a year. This is a revolution, but in itself it is insufficient. Unfortunately, if you look what's happening in neighboring countries like Syria or Jordan. In Syria, because of bad management of water, hundreds of thousands of people were uprooted from their farms. And in Jordan, in Amman, twice a week, there is a tanker that is going around and which is distributing water. It's not very easy to run the water sector in Israel. But please see that if one really wishes to see the revolution in Israel, the Zionist revolution, the tremendous achievements in Israel, you can very well look at that through the water story. We can be proud of it. JNF ought to be proud of it. Perhaps to a different area. We just had today the demonstration that took place here. I'll say of that a number of comments. I'll start with the Iranian problem. The Iranian problem is just one of the phenomena that altogether tells us that those radical parts of Islam are now targeting the Western civilization in order to bring to its collapse and replacing it with a different Muslim civilization. Iran is highly involved in terror. It sponsors many organizations, and in itself, it develops ballistic missiles capabilities and nuclear capabilities. It speaks openly about the destruction of Israel. And when we listen carefully to the speeches of Ahmadinejad, on and on, whether in the United Nations or in universities like as was the case in Colombia, his vision is not only a world without Israel, but a world without democracy. I say all of that perhaps to stress the fact that the Iranian goal is global. Israel is a small Satan. It is just the first stop on the Iranian route of destruction. The big Satan is the United States, is America, is the leader of the free world. Otherwise, one cannot explain why is a country like Iran putting so many resources into the development of those capabilities. Let you have no mistake that what seems now a far-fetched scenario could be very real 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, when they will develop a missile reaching the coast of the United States. And they already have these ideas on their drawing boards. An Iranian president will pick up the phone, call the American president and say, "Sir, with all due respect, we don't like to see your forces here in the Gulf. Move out." And to make his point, the Iranian president will add, "Sir, we in Iran, in Tehran, are prepared to put our capital under threat. Are you prepared to put Washington under threat?" This is something which is very real in the eyes of those who live and understand the Middle East. So we speak here about a global plan to promote mad ideologies. And Ahmadinejad is no less than he who denies the Holocaust yet prepares a new one. And that's why we have to stop them at all cost. We just can't allow this combination of religious fanaticism going hand in hand with weapons of mass destruction. Perhaps, if time will allow, I will also go to the connection between Iran, terror, and the financial and political power which they derive from oil. because there is an idea for a project that the Prime Minister of Israel spoke of, in which it will be possible to produce oil substitutes and perhaps fight terror in a very interesting way. But I would like yet, if we'll have time, we'll go into that, just to make a comment with respect to Iran. And this has to do with Neville Chamberlain, who used to be the Prime Minister of Britain just before the Second World War. And he faced Nazi Germany, that was speaking clearly about its expansionist ambitions. Neville Chamberlain didn't want to have war, and he believed that diplomacy and negotiations could check Germany at its place. He chose to make concessions and believe the promises that Hitler made to him. Obviously, this didn't deter an aggressor. And we have come across perhaps the worst wars ever experienced in human history. Note, we don't debate in Israel the topic as to those who are for peace or those who are against peace. Everyone in Israel who has his kid in the army or fought himself wars want to have peace. And the debate is on the road to peace. What way should we pick to get to peace? We are offered by many friends, make concessions, give up territories in order to bring an end to the conflict. I think we should first ask, what is the root cause of the conflict? And let us answer. The truth is that the root cause of the conflicts is the total refusal by the Arabs to accept the right of the Jewish people to a state of its own in its ancient homeland, Israel. There are many proofs for that. In 1947, the United Nations reached the resolution of partition and offered a Jewish state and an Arab-Palestinian state. We have accepted that. The Palestinians rejected, and with the rest of the Arab countries, called on a war of annihilation. They were defeated. Those who think that the Syrian conflict is because of our presence in Judea and Samaria simply confuses cause and effect, reason to the result. Because since 1948 until 1967, we were not in Judea and Samaria, not one single Jewish community. Yet these very areas served as launching pads for terror activities, ongoing terror, without one Jew living in this area. No one needed to ask for a moratorium, for a freeze of settlement for the sake of peace, because no Jew was living in that area. More than that, in the year of 1993, Israel has offered the Oslo Agreement, far-reaching concessions over there. In the year of 2000, our Premier Ehud Barak, in the second Camp David negotiation round, offered yet additional, I would say almost unheard of type of concessions, including the division of Jerusalem, God forbid. We then went to the roadmap in 2003 and to the disengagement. And in all of these cases, when the Palestinians had to put the signature on a paper that recognizes the Jewish state and our right to a state of our own, they blew it. As Foreign Minister Abba Eban, a legendary one, said, the Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. But the heart of the matter is that the root cause of the conflict is they simply do not want to have us there.
We now continue with our special program with Israel Minister Uzi Landau.
In Lebanon, we got the Hezbollah, terror organization with a much deeper and stronger political clout in Lebanon, today with 40,000 missiles. And in Gaza, the Hamas extremists got into power through democratic elections, monitored by President Carter, and are now rearming themselves to the teeth, having a number of thousands of rockets and missiles. The peace process is important, but we have to base it on reality, not on illusions. And as much as we wish to have peace, within a year, we should prepare ourselves to the fact that it won't take to really get it within a year, and we shall have to opt for a long-range interim agreement. Mr. Abu Mazen, the president of the Palestinian entity, he said that just before the meeting that took place in Washington, he said that they will not only never recognize the right of the Jews to a state, which is Israel, but they will never agree that one Jew will live in Judea and Samaria. And I'm asking myself, what kind of a peace is it that no Jew can live in Judea and Samaria? Perhaps as a citizen in a Palestinian state, if it will come into being. Is it really just that there will be 20% Arab Palestinians living as citizens in the Jewish state? And perhaps 20%, 10%, 5% of Jews will be living in a future Palestinian state, perhaps one Jew? That's really not peace. And we have expected our American friends, American administration, to stand with us and make it clear to the Palestinians that the Jews stood and respected their word. And now it's the turn of the Palestinians to make their concession. And we are still making for that. We wish to see a leader who wants to have peace and can deliver, like Sadat. We wish to see effective security forces that can combat the Hamas and can eliminate terror. We wish to see their independent legal system. We wish to see there a different educational system that doesn't teach anymore the Jews have poisoned the world, that we are monkeys and pigs, and that we are the plague of the third millennium. We want a system that teaches, as we do, that the Jews are neighbors and they are partners for negotiations. So we shall continue to fight terror, and we shall continue to build the country until we shall have an agreement, and we shall do it with the entire Jewish world behind us, of course, with the JNF. Jerusalem has been our capital for almost 3,000 years. This country, so many occupiers, one replacing the other. No other nation did develop there and did make this place its homeland. Palestine, it's a geography. There's no language, Palestinian language, no Palestinian culture. They are the descendants of the many occupiers that came to this place. Jerusalem, it has never been but the capital of the Jewish people. Jerusalem, D.C., as Begin referred to it, David's capital. The Temple Mount. Why is that called the Temple Mount and not the Mosque Mount? Because even after the temple has been destroyed, every civilized nation knows that this place is Jewish. And Pope John Paul, upon visiting the Holy Land in the year of 2000, being in Jerusalem, he said that Israel is a country holy to all, but promised to the Jews only. I think this is important to take close to our heart. And these were the reasons why the League of Nations, based on our historical rights, reached the resolution that empowered Britain the mandate of Palestine in order to make it the national home of the Jews. And I've also found that such a similar joint resolution of both houses of Congress unanimously endorsed the mandate for Palestine, confirming the irrevocable right of Jews to settle in the area of Palestine anywhere between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. June 30, 1922, U.S. Resolution number 322. To sum it all up, Iran and the terror organizations don't see in the United States an enemy because the United States supports Israel. They are fighting Israel because Israel is a lonely outpost of the democratic world. Israel is a bastion of freedom that has to be overcome on the road to defeat the West. Because Israel is truly a rock, an island of democracy, of rule of law, of freedom. In the rough Middle Eastern seas of dictatorships, of corruption, of oppression of women, where honor killing is honored, of persecution of minorities, of spraying demonstrators with bullets. And all of us here who are fighting for freedom, for democracy, for justice, not just in Israel, but in our Western civilization, I guess for all, the support of Israel is basically a moral litmus test for the individual and for a community. And being with Israel is a pride, is a privilege, is a great honor. Looking back, we've started our Zionist modern road about 90 years ago with the pogroms in Jerusalem in 1920. We were about 50,000 Jews then with almost no army, nothing. And then we went from pogrom to pogrom until we came to the 1948 War of Independence, 600,000 Jews with a small but strong army, with a token economy and industry. And then we moved to 67, we were already 2.2. And then we moved to the War of Attrition and the 73 War, and you just name it. Throughout these years, people were asking and commenting, see what the threats are, what will happen, what will be. We are today 7.5 million people in Israel, touching frontiers of science and technology, leading high-tech country. Over 1 million Jews came to us when they could from Russia. We have a strong army, we have a solid economy, and people ask us, what will there be? Well, if we go back to our Zionist and Jewish roots, if we shall continue to build the country, if we shall continue to offer fair peace, and if they will not, the Arabs agree to it, they'll find us 5 years from now with 10, 11, 12 million people, with a country which is much stronger, and we shall negotiate with them peace then. What shall there be? It will be okay. It will be fine. Let's just continue and do what we need. And I wish now again to thank Jews and non-Jews alike, who, like us, with us, fight for freedom. I wish to thank the JNF for what you have been doing and will do. We'll need you in the future, perhaps more than we have in the past. The future prepares for us more and tough challenges in this battle for freedom in the world, for a stronger Jerusalem, for a stronger Israel. I know that we will prevail, that we will win. And I know that this will be our finest hour. So help us God. Thank you very much.
This concludes our special show for today from On Location in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Richard Peritz. Thank you for being with us.